Blackblade here with another video for you. Welcome back to the channel. This one we're doing Aurora Sinistra. Apologies for my voice, I'm dying, got man flu. But I'm not letting that stop me. So let's get on with it. Super rare mini, super lush. Let's get on with it.
Righto, here we go. As you can see, I've primed her. So this was like a zenithal prime, but then I added a highlight down the bottom as well. So obviously I used an airbrush for this. I didn't go with the usual combination of black, my bog standard grey, and then white. What I did was black from underneath, and I think it was a cement grey, and I just did the shoulders and did it from more or less overhead, and then I got the white out, or it's an off-white that I use for just down the bottom part, and then at the hat and at the shoulders, and a little bit at the back as well, back of the shoulders. And we're ready to go with that one. So apologies for my voice, I'm full of cold at the minute, but I'm going to carry on like the trooper I am. We've got a mix, Steel Legion Drab, Balo Brown. So it's about 2 drops of the Steel Legion, drop of Balo Brown, 2 drops of water, drop of flow improver. And that's the magic Hogwarts mix to make it nice and thin, and it'll act like a contrast paint. So even if we do a couple of coats, should still have the zenithal prime showing, so it will still have light and shadow. So I'm going to work my way around. When that's dry, come back. Righto, here we go. As you can see, I've primed her. So this was like a zenithal prime, but then I added a highlight down the bottom as well. So obviously I used an airbrush for this. I didn't go with the usual combination of black, my bog standard grey, and then white. What I did was black from underneath, and I think it was a cement grey, and I just did the shoulders and did it from more or less overhead, and then I got the white out, or it's an off-white that I use for just down the bottom part, and then at the hat and at the shoulders, and a little bit at the back as well, back of the shoulders. And we're ready to go with that one. So apologies for my voice, I'm full of cold at the minute, but I'm going to carry on like the trooper I am. We've got a mix, Steel Legion Drab, Balo Brown. So it's about 2 drops of the Steel Legion, drop of Balo Brown, 2 drops of water, drop of flow improver. And that's the magic Hogwarts mix to make it nice and thin, and it'll act like a contrast paint. So even if we do a couple of coats, should still have the zenithal prime showing, so it will still have light and shadow. So I'm going to work my way around. When that's dry, come back. So it's taken a bit longer than normal to dry because of the flow improver that was added to the paint, but when it does dry, you can see we still got the light area down the bottom, still got the light area at the shoulders. So we'll take advantage of that by applying a second coat, but just applying it down the bottom and just at the shoulders and sleeves. So from the chest down, I want to keep that part of the shadow, and the same at the back. We want to keep the middle section as shadow too. So let's get the brush ready with the paint and apply it from about there down. And if you do see a stark change that you've got there, don't worry too much about it, because it will, when it dries, it fades, so it'll appear lighter when you apply it than it actually dries. You know, the colour actually dries too. So don't worry too much about it. But if you do get a stark line that you want to get rid of, just get a bit of water on your brush and just feather it off. So I'm just picking out the folds here. And on the top of the robes. I'm getting a bit fed up with this cold now. I've had it for about 3 days. It's getting on my nerves. I'm not too worried about light and shadow on top of the hat, because it's a fairly level hat, so you're not going to have too much contrast there. It'll be maybe mostly on the sides. And we'll do an edge highlight later on. So I'll deliberately go heavy there so we get a line of contrast. See there? So we've got a definite line there. So I'll just wet my brush, wet that border, push the pigment down, and that will create a fade. So when that dries, you shouldn't really see as stark a line as when you first applied the paint. So I'll do that one again. I'll add some more paint down the bottom bit of it. And then I'll get a wet brush, add it to the border, push the pigment down so we get a fade. See, that one's dried now, and because I applied the paint further down, you know, we've got a stronger tone down the bottom and we've got a nice fade in the middle, so that's perfect for what we want. Takes a bit of practice. I'll do this. It's a similar method up the top, but I'm not going too far down, so I don't need to do the fade here. So that is pretty much our base coat. I'll wait for it to totally dry and decide if we need to put another layer on, but further down towards the base of the miniature. But I think we're okay there because we're going to highlight that anyway. No, it's looking good. Right, apologies for the palette. It's been a busy couple of days. This is the base coat here. Let's get some more water on my brush. I've added some Citadel's Cantor blue to it, and I think I'm going to add a little bit more. And this is going to be the deepest shadows. So I'll get a little bit more. Yeah. And we'll add a little bit of water to that as well. So we get a nice thin consistency. We'll move that to the side and grab the mini and zoom in. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to apply that to the middle section in the deepest recesses. And this should give us a lovely change in tone. So remember I said the chest area down was going to be in shadow. I think we'll add it to that sleeve there. So just the deepest parts of the robe. I'll probably take a couple of coats just to build this up. And we can go darker as well, but we'll see how it goes. Be the same on the back. See that stark line there? I just wet my brush. Let's feather it off so we got a nice fade there. Some people keep a brush behind the ear with just water on it for this exact purpose, but there's no real need really. Use the same brush. So that's the shade nearly done. What I'll do, I'll put some underneath the hat, but I'm going to put some around the side here because there are quite some quite deep creases in the hat. So just to get a bit of contrast in tone. Alright, so we'll leave that dry, see what we've got, and we'll come back. Okay, so put a smidgen more Cantor blue in the mix, plus a little bit more water, and I'm just going to go in the center of the mini, in the deep recesses. And if a deep crease goes all the way down, we'll go all the way down. Because there's some on the back here that needs it, I think. Okay, we're done. Right, now it's time to go back to the original base coat. So I pulled some to the side and added a little more water to it. And we're going to pick out the raised folds now. just in case we got a little bit of the blue where it shouldn't be, like at the edge of the coat here, or the edge of the robe. So just bring that back. And you can do a couple of passes at this because the paint is thin. Doesn't really matter how many passes you do, I don't think. Just go until you're happy that you've got a decent bit of contrast going, you know, between the chest and the knees, which I think we have. But just bear in mind that it will dry to a slightly duller colour than when you first apply it. So don't take it as red when you first apply it. It's really bright because it will fade and dull down a bit. So always go back and reevaluate. Ready for highlights now. So because I missed a bit on the shoulder there, you didn't tell me, did you? Right, let's go back to the original mix and get it in there. I just picked this bit of paint up from the edge where the Cantal blue had been mixed in, so it's going to be quite dark under that hat, isn't it? So some on the other side to even it up. Okay, so on to the first highlight. I've got xandrie dust, and I've added that to the original base coat. So it's slightly more xandrie dust than the base coat, and I've thinned it down. So ratio wise, it's about 50% paint, 50% water. And as you can see, just picking the edges off and spreading out that highlight at the bottom there to take up the full fault. And the edge of the sleeve, and that inner bit there that we can just make out. I'm going to go slightly lighter on the sleeves as it does on the box art, but I'm not going to go as yellow as it appears to be. Purely because I don't like yellow. Fussy bugger. So the highlights up the top. I'll pull the pigment over the shoulder and build that up. Because it's thin enough, you'll be able to start about there and pull the pigment towards the edge of the fold, and you should get a transition. You know, you won't get, if you got too much paint on your brush, you'll get a pool. So just keep the minimum amount on your brush and pull that pigment towards where you want it to go, and just let it build up slowly. So the first pass or so you won't really see it at all, but in subsequent ones you will see it building up, and that's what we're after, a smooth transition. Sorry, I've got to take a break in a second because my nose is about to drip. Apologies. So I'm just using the side of my brush to go along the edge of the hat there. And that'll do for a first pass. Okay, so I'm going to do another coat now. This is xandrie dust on its own. And I'll just add the highlight down the bottom. I'm not going all the way up the folds this time. So if you remember where that white highlight started, that's about the area where you want to stop. And up the top. Okay. So okay, for the skin I'm using an old Citadel dark flesh. It's quite a dark warm brown. Closest I can find to it is Doom Bull brown. I think this would work quite nicely as well, so it's quite warm, but maybe if you added some Mournfang brown to it as well, it would be okay, I think. So let's carry on with that. And I was looking at some reference pictures online of Sinistra, and she has got quite a dark skin tone to her. So I'm going to stick with that rather than the box art. If you've seen my previous video, you'll see we did Kingsley Shacklebolt with a similar skin tone, and that worked out okay. So I thought we'd do the same here. I'll take a couple of coats just to get it going, I think. So I'll try and preserve the features of the face by, not flooding it with paint. So I've done a couple of coats now with the skin, but I'm going to lay down a base coat on the ponytail now with German grey. It's my go-to for dark hair in this series. Just a reminder to anybody that's catching up on these videos, I've tried to keep a core of the same colours so that any beginners don't have to shell out too much. On huge paint sets that you don't really need. Okay, so to highlight the skin, I'm going to add some Kadian flesh tone to the dark flesh. Not an awful lot. Saying that, if I can find some in the bottom of my paint pot. Yeah, there we go. For a more detailed video on flesh or faces is episode 17, and I use the same principle by going for the cheekbones, the nose, top lip and chin, and just build up the highlights. Straight in with a second pass. Leave that dry. So carrying on with the face, I managed to get the eyes in, and now I'm going to carry on with the highlights. So same as before, it's the tip of the nose, cheekbone, and the chin, and the top lip. And what you can do is I've added a little bit of German grey and I put a line where her there you go, where her cheekbones are, just underneath the cheekbone. It's the hollow of the cheek. Done that both sides, and I did that around the eye socket as well with the German grey, so just adds a nice bit of contrast there. So I'll carry on highlighting by adding more kadian flash to the mix. And it's starting to come. So don't forget the hand as well, as I do. So see, we can't go too light because it's a wide brim hat and everything's going to be in shadow anyway, unless we apply the rule of cool and just do it anyway, which is more than likely. I'm not looking forward to doing the eyes, by the way. Dotting them. We'll come to that after. I have to do that off camera again. Alright, I think we'll leave it there for the face. So back to the robes. I've added some ivory to the xandrie dust, so we're getting close to a bone colour now. And it's still thin. And this is probably the final highlight. Just be down the bottom part of each fold. I might pick out a few bits on the sleeves towards the top. And the edge of the hat. And the collars. Just pull the pigment out towards the point. think we need a different colour on the V's there, but there's nothing to suggest that on the box art, so I'll have to have a think about that one. So it's the second pass on the highlight now, so I want to get in on that collar. Next up might be a surprise unless you are a subscriber to the Patreon channel, where we go on to some glazes next, just to mix things up a bit, change some tones. I think I'm going to put a little bit of shadow at the top of each of those V's. Right? So I'll go back to the one where we added a little bit of Cantor blue into it. And I'll just pull the pigment up towards the collar. I might have to feather that off, I think. If I can get in there. Oh, let's do the whole collar. Change the tone. So I'll take a couple of coats. It looks pretty disgusting at the minute, but it will improve. Okay. Yet another highlight with that bony colour. Just to push it down here. I like where it's going. So I did another coat in there with the Cantor blue mix, and I've added another highlight to the collar. And now I've got a bit of ivory added to the already bone coloured xandrie dust. So we're looking at a screaming skull kind of colour now. And I'm just gonna put another highlight on the edge of that collar so it stands out a bit, and right at the front of the hat towards the middle. And on the top there too, and down here. And now we're ready for the glazing stage. Okay. Well, I've got that bony xandrie dust. I'm going to mix it with that dark flesh to try and get a browny colour. No, it's gone pink. So I'm thinking of picking out that wand, but any generic brown will do for that. So, glazing. Okay, apologies if this has woken you up. orange glaze, very thin, wasn't even a drop of paint, and about 8 drops of water. I'm using Citadel's Troll Slayer Orange, that one there. I'm doing this because it's colour theory, more or less. Because we use blue for the shadows, we're using orange for the highlights. So I'm going to glaze this into the highlight area, which is down the bottom of the robes. I haven't got too much on my brush. Just dipped it in and wiped off the excess. And just work your way around. Just where you went with that last highlight, so it's about that level downwards. Sorry, that level downwards. So that's the first pass. It's almost dry, so we'll go straight back in and get rid of the excess. It'll take a couple of passes for it to begin to show, but just keep it on the highlight areas. It just changes it to a lovely muted orange kind of tone, and it goes perfectly with the blue that we've just put in the shadows. So I'm going to put a little bit into the sleeves as well, just on the edges where we've punched that highlight. And a little bit on that tip of the collar and the front of that. The disappointing thing is that the camera won't really pick this up, I don't think. But trust me, if you've got it in your hand and you're doing this, you will see it. Sorry, I'm wandering off out of the frame again. And just keep going until you're happy that you've got a tone there. I'm starting to see it on that one now. It beats just plain brown. As I say, you probably saw this on Professor Sprout. The reason this has come onto YouTube earlier than the Patreon, well, it's been on Patreon, but it hasn't been on there long. Reason for that is that not that many people have got this one, so I thought it'd be nice and interesting for people to see how we did it. So I think we're almost there. I just need to be brave, dot the I's, sort the hand out and the wand, and I think we're done. And get her on a base, obviously, but no, it's looking good. A nice bit of contrast in the middle. And go for another pass. Sorry. I'll skip that one because I think no, I'll go for it. Sorry, I'm waffling to myself now.
Okay, here we are on a base. Another one off the list. Apologies for my voice, I've deteriorated overnight. But still going. So, another one done. As always, get in touch in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.